Hello there, YouTube. Once again, I'm uploading an RX4 video. And today I'm going to tackle the question I get asked a lot, and that is, why the RX4? So, I'll cut right to the chase. Clearly, this is older footage. I had tried to record it with my new GoPro, but my old microphone was not interacting. There went a Harley boy. My old microphone wasn't interacting well with my new GoPro. That's something I'll have to work on. It's been in the 40s and 50s here, so I've not had time to mess with it with work and everything else going on. Christmas is fast approaching. So anyway, long story short, old footage. I'm recording it later. So why the RX4? I hadn't ridden in a few years, and the bikes I was used to, the bikes I've had pretty much primarily my whole life have been 4-cylinder Japanese bikes from the 80s. And if you ask me right now what my preference is, it is still old Japanese bikes with 4 cylinders from the 80s. There's something about those bikes. I love them, and I always will. And I still have my GS 650 Suzuki. It is just, unfortunately, I think the piston rings are shot, so it's just kind of in the barn awaiting when I have more time and effort to devote to it, which is later. So long story short, I hadn't had a bike, and my girlfriend doesn't ride, so we were looking at Honda Groms because those looked like they were fun. And as we started researching, I kind of realized that, you know, Groms are great. I'm not bashing the Grom kids out there, but we were looking at the SG, or the GS, whatever, SG 250 from CSC, and we started realizing that that was probably a better option to start for her. And also, like, I mean, it's half the price of a Grom, and you can do highway speeds on it, so it was kind of a no-brainer for me that, you know, hey, that's probably better for what we're going to do. I'm past my hooligan days, so I don't need to pretend I'm on a tiny supermoto around town. So that's what we started looking at for her, and we got the SG 250 ordered. And I started looking at some of the other bikes that CSC had, and I was kind of eyeballing the RX4 and thought it looked pretty cool. It turns out that also was right around the price range of a Grom. I mean, it's only what, $1,000-$1,200 more dollars or something. It wasn't an outrageous jump up from a Grom, but I didn't know a lot about the company CSC. I didn't know a lot about the RX4 and how it was a Zongshin from China, and a lot of people, you know, that's off-putting. Chinese garbage bike, Chinese junk bike. I see that all the time. Same thing with the SG 250. You know, they call it a glorified scooter, but it's not. It's actually a really cool little bike. And so I started researching the RX4s, and I saw the video that Ari Henning and Zach Quartz had done for RevZilla about the budget adventure bikes. One of them had the RX4, of course. I think Ari had the RX4, and Zach had the Himalayan by Royal Enfield. So for some reason, I just kind of fell in love with both of those bikes, and even though they advocated for the Royal Enfield, I still was kind of drawn to the RX4, just because I kind of like the styling, and I like the BMW knockoff looks. Somebody said on one of the other videos it's just basically a GS 300 or whatever from BMW, and that's kind of the styling they went for. But I watched that, and I debated, and when I say debated, I mean I was like in agony for about 2 weeks trying to figure out, am I going to try and get a Royal Enfield? Am I going to stick with the RX4? What am I going to do? So finally I settled on the Royal Enfield. So I contacted 2 dealerships, and this was in the dead-ass middle of the Corona outbreak, so, or the first wave, or whatever you want to call it. Back in the spring. And so neither one of those dealers responded to me. They didn't really have the time, or I guess couldn't be bothered, and I'm sure they were staying safe at home or whatever. So I kind of started eyeballing the CSC RX4, and the more I got into it, I realized it had almost double the power the Royal Enfield had, and that was my big concern. Was I do want to occasionally hit the interstate, and I do occasionally like to run 75, so I wanted something that could pull me. And with the 40 plus horsepower, which isn't a lot, the RX4 was way ahead of the Enfield. So I went ahead and bit the bullet and ordered the RX4. That whole process was relatively pain-free. I will say, for anybody contemplating doing it, though, have your ducks in a row when you go to get it licensed and insured. That was probably the biggest hassle, honestly. As far as them shipping it, that was not a big deal. They shipped it. The company stayed in pretty much constant contact with me. It took about a month to get from California to Kentucky, which is where I am. So I mean, it was one of those things where I had to be pretty patient. And then when I went to go get it tagged and insured, that was kind of the hassle, because the sheriff's office has to inspect it, and I got in this weird loophole where they wouldn't inspect it without a title, and I couldn't get a title without an inspection, and the certificate of origin wasn't good enough for some reason. So I finally had to call some people and have the sheriffs call some people, and finally they agreed to inspect the bike, and I got it on the road, and that was the biggest hassle, probably, was just getting it titled in Kentucky. And then when I was leaving the sheriff's office, I'm like, you guys remember me, because my girlfriend's gonna have the same issue when her CSC motorcycle gets here. So long story short, that's one thing that is a pain point, or was a pain point for me. And of course, when my girlfriend got her, the SG250s were on back order, so by the time she got hers, we were able to get it pretty much squared away. They remembered me from before and all the hassle it was. So anyway, that was my pain point. But I will say that this bike isn't maybe as refined as some of its Japanese counterparts. The KTMs and stuff are killing it right now. Those are great bikes, but for the price and for what you get with this bike, I've been extremely happy. I've just done my first oil change and checked valves and all that stuff. Relatively simple to work on if you have a little bit of mechanical skill. And I will say that the speedometer says that I'm going 75 here, but I don't think I was. I think it's a little off, and it's very sensitive. Like, if you accelerate at all, it shoots way up. So for any of our law enforcement friends watching, I do not think this speedometer is accurate. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So while the RX4, good value, excellent build quality. Zongshin is actually a pretty big Chinese company that makes motorcycles, and of course they make a lot of parts for other brands too. So give it a shot. I mean, if it's in your budget and you're just looking for a good value, something to ride, something to get back into biking, fairly cheap, this is a good option. It was a good option for me, and I love it. So I'll keep you guys posted. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I will have more content to come. And I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.